In the vast expanse of the galaxy, the universe was often indifferent to the struggles of lesser-known worlds. Powerful alliances between star systems controlled most of the galaxy, and those who weren't part of these alliances were left to fend for themselves. One such world, Zifferon, a peaceful planet rich in resources, had attracted the attention of ruthless raiders from the outer reaches of the galaxy. Zifferon's people, though technologically advanced in some ways, lacked the means to defend themselves against the vicious and well-equipped raiders. Their cries for help echoed across the cosmos, but no one responded. The Galactic Council, the supposed peacekeepers of the galaxy, ignored their pleas, deeming the planet unworthy of their attention. The fate of Zifferon seemed sealed. Its people would be wiped out, forgotten like so many others before them. Yet, on Earth, a small blue planet on the outer rim of the Milky Way, something unexpected was happening. Earth's scientists had been monitoring distant signals through their radio telescopes. They often picked up strange signals from deep space, some of which were mere cosmic noise, others carrying information from alien worlds. One signal, however, was different. It was a distress call from Zifferon. At first, no one believed it. Earth's leaders had little experience with intergalactic matters. The government, though eager to join the broader galactic community, had never imagined they would face such a situation. But General Marcus Wright, a career military officer, was one of the few who listened. He saw this as a sign, a call for help that they could not ignore. It wasn't just a plea from another planet. It was a chance for Earth to show the universe that they would not be passive in the face of injustice. General Wright gathered a small group of the brightest minds in the military: Captain Elara Kane, a strategic genius, and Dr. Lyle Quinn, an engineer known for his ability to build and fix anything, were among the first to be called in. The plan was simple, though highly risky. Earth would send a fleet to Zifferon to protect it from the raiders, even if they had to do it alone. The news of the mission was met with disbelief. Earth was not yet a powerful force in the galaxy. Their technology was still in its infancy compared to the advanced races that dominated the stars. The Galactic Council, when they heard of Earth's plans, were dismissive. Let the humans waste their resources, they scoffed. Zifferon is no concern of ours. But for Wright and his team, there was no turning back. Zifferon needed help, and Earth would be the ones to give it. As Earth's fleet prepared for its first interstellar mission, Wright felt a mixture of pride and anxiety. They were stepping into unknown territory, a world that would either recognize humanity's bravery or crush it under the weight of the galaxy's indifference. The Vanguard, Earth's flagship, would lead the charge. With its experimental weapons and untested technology, it was the only ship capable of surviving the harsh space battle that lay ahead. As they set course for Zifferon, the crew of the Vanguard knew they were embarking on a mission that could define the future of Earth. Would they succeed in defending a planet the universe had forgotten, or would Earth's first journey into the stars end in failure? The first challenge had begun, and there was no turning back. The first steps of Earth's journey into the galaxy were filled with uncertainty. General Marcus Wright, though a seasoned military officer, had never faced a challenge like this. Leading humanity's first intergalactic mission, he was aware of the heavy responsibility resting on his shoulders. Zifferon, a peaceful planet on the verge of destruction, had placed its trust in Earth's hands. But with no allies and little time, would humanity be able to defend them against the ruthless raiders? General Wright's team was a small but determined group. At the helm of the Vanguard was Captain Elara Kane, a brilliant tactician known for her quick thinking and ability to make difficult decisions under pressure. Her sharp eyes scanned the star charts and battle strategies, preparing for the worst-case scenarios. Elara knew the risks. She understood that Earth was underprepared for such a mission. But she believed in their cause. This wasn't just a mission to defend Zifferon. It was a mission to prove that humanity, no matter how young and small, could stand up for what was right. Alongside them was Dr. Lyle Quinn, an engineer who had spent years developing technology for Earth's military. His specialty was adapting and improving systems, and it was his work that had led to the creation of Earth's most advanced ship, the Vanguard. Dr. Quinn was excited by the challenge, yet even he had doubts. The Vanguard was Earth's pride, but against the Raiders' technologically superior fleet, could it really make a difference? The crew of the Vanguard, though united by a common goal, was a mix of emotions. Some were eager, driven by the thrill of space exploration and the prospect of making history. Others were more cautious, unsure of what awaited them beyond the familiar stars. As Earth's fleet made its way toward Zifferon, the weight of the unknown pressed heavily on each member of the crew. For Captain Kane, the journey was as much about strategy as it was about the unknown. How could they defend a planet with limited resources? They would have to outsmart their enemies, use unconventional tactics, and hope their experimental weapons worked. There was no room for failure. The crew of the Vanguard knew that Zifferon's fate, and their own, depended on their ability to fight in ways no one had ever expected. "We don't have the firepower of the Galactic Council," Captain Kane said one evening as the stars streaked past the ship's observation deck. "But we have something they don't. We have heart." General Wright nodded. It was a simple phrase, but it encapsulated the spirit of humanity's mission. The crew may have been outmatched, outnumbered, and outclassed by the galaxy's more powerful civilizations, but they had the will to fight, the courage to stand up for those who couldn't stand up for themselves, the desire to do what was right. Dr. Quinn, who had been working late in the engineering bay, walked into the room with a tired smile. "The Vanguard's ready," he said, his voice steady. "We'll be ready for whatever the Raiders throw at us." But even as they spoke with determination, there was an underlying sense of fear. No one knew what to expect when they reached Zifferon. They only knew that they had no other choice. They would either defend the planet or fail, and the galaxy would never forget that Earth was the only one to rise when the universe looked away. As the Vanguard soared through the stars, the crew prepared themselves for the battle ahead, knowing that they were about to face their greatest test yet. The final stretch of the journey to Zifferon was filled with a mix of anticipation and nervousness. The Vanguard, Earth's flagship, was the pride of their fleet, but it was also untested in real combat. The crew knew they were facing something far more powerful than anything Earth had ever encountered. Yet there was no turning back now. Captain Elara Kane stood on the command bridge, her eyes locked on the star map in front of her. They were nearing Zifferon, and the Raiders, as expected, were waiting for them. General Wright, standing beside her, could feel the tension in the air. He had trained his entire life for battles, but this was different. This was not just about victory or defeat. It was about the survival of an innocent world. "We're almost there," Elara said, her voice steady, but with a hint of excitement. "Prepare for engagement. Dr. Quinn, how are our shields holding up?" Dr. Lyle Quinn, who had been monitoring the ship's systems from the engineering bay, replied, "The Vanguard's shields are stable, but I won't lie to you, Captain. We're pushing the limits of our tech. The Raiders won't be easy to deal with." General Wright glanced at the screen, where the Raiders' fleet was already visible. 3 massive ships, far larger than the Vanguard, each brimming with weapons. Their leader, Captain Talrock, was known across the galaxy for his ruthlessness. He had wiped out entire civilizations for profit, and now he had his sights set on Zifferon. The idea that Earth could stop him seemed almost impossible, but Wright's resolve was unwavering. "Stay calm," Wright said to his crew. "We've trained for this. Earth may be small, but we have the will to fight." As the Vanguard neared Zifferon, the Raiders moved to intercept them. The first volley of weapons was fired. A massive energy blast shot toward the Vanguard, striking the ship's shields with a force that rattled every member of the crew. The ship shook, but the shields held firm. Elara's fingers flew over the control panel, her mind working faster than the ship could move. "Return fire," she ordered, her voice sharp. "Use the new particle cannons. Full power." The Vanguard's guns lit up, unleashing a blast of energy that struck one of the raider ships, sending it spinning into the void. For a moment, there was silence. The raiders were not prepared for this level of resistance. "They're retreating," Dr. Quinn said, watching the redouts with wide eyes. "I don't believe it. They actually retreated." For a brief moment, the crew allowed themselves a small breath of relief. But the battle was far from over. Captain Talrock, seeing his fleet falter, issued a command to his remaining ships, sending them back into formation. The battle was about to intensify. "Talrock's not done yet," Wright said grimly. "He won't let us win this easily." Ilara's fingers tightened around the controls as she prepared for the next round. "We won't give him the chance." The raiders' fleet circled the Vanguard, each ship waiting for an opening, a weakness to exploit. But the crew of the Vanguard was prepared. They had the element of surprise on their side and the courage to fight for what was right. As the battle raged on, Earth's fleet found itself fighting with everything they had. Every shot counted. Every move had to be calculated. They were not just fighting for victory. They were fighting to show the universe that Earth was not a planet to be ignored. The fight for Zephyron had begun, and despite the odds, humanity had already shown that they would not back down. The galaxy might have turned its back, but Earth had stepped forward, and in that moment, they proved that they could hold their ground. The battle above Zephyron raged on, with the Vanguard holding its ground against the overwhelming might of the raiders. For hours, the human fleet had fought bravely, but they were outnumbered, and each minute spent in battle was a minute closer to exhaustion. The Vanguard's shields flickered under the pressure of the relentless attacks, and every crew member felt the weight of the fight. Yet, amid the chaos, General Wright knew they had to press on. The raiders were relentless, but Earth's crew was determined. They couldn't afford to fail. But as the raiders regrouped for another strike, Wright knew they needed more than just their own strength to win. He needed an ally, someone with knowledge of Zephyron's terrain, its secrets, and its people. Dr. Lyle Quinn, who had been working tirelessly to keep the Vanguard systems running, approached Wright with a suggestion. "Sir," Quinn said, his voice tinged with both worry and hope, "there may be a way to turn the tide. The Zephyron people, though primitive, have an understanding of their world that we don't. They could help us, if they're willing." Wright's brow furrowed. "But they don't trust us. They see us as strangers, foreigners from a distant world. How can we convince them to fight alongside us?" "Maybe they'll listen to you," Quinn replied. "They've suffered enough. We're their only hope." Wright nodded, understanding the weight of the decision. If he could somehow convince the Zephyrans to join the fight, it would change everything. Earth couldn't win this battle alone. And if the Zephyron people didn't rise up, their world would fall. Taking a deep breath, Wright gave the order. "Prepare to make contact with the Zephyron survivors. We need their help." Captain Ilara Kane, who had been coordinating the battle strategies, turned to Wright with a skeptical look. "Are you sure? We've never communicated with them before." "We don't have a choice," Wright said, his tone firm. "We'll do what we must." A small team was dispatched to make contact with the Zephyron survivors, who were hiding in underground bunkers on the planet's surface. These survivors, once a peaceful people, had been forced into hiding after the raiders' invasion. Their technology was primitive compared to the galaxy's powers, but they were survivors. They knew their land, their resources, and their enemies better than anyone. After hours of tense communication, the first of the Zephyron leaders, a woman named Lyra, agreed to meet with the humans. She appeared cautiously, her eyes filled with doubt, but also a glimmer of hope. She had heard of Earth's desperate mission to save her people, but trust wasn't easily given. Lyra spoke first, her voice low but steady. "Why should we trust you? Your people have come from far away, and you ask for our help without even knowing our ways." Wright stood before her, his hands clasped behind his back. He looked at the Zephyron leader, his eyes filled with resolve. "Because we're here to help you. No one else will. Your people need protection, and we're willing to fight for you. You don't have to trust us, but we need you." Lyra studied him for a moment, weighing his words. Finally, she spoke, her voice softer. "We have no other choice." And with that, the alliance between Earth and the Zephyron people was born. As the humans and Zephyrans began to strategize together, a new hope began to blossom. The Zephyrans provided valuable insight into their planet's geography, the weaknesses of the raiders, and hidden resources that the humans could use to their advantage. In return, the humans offered their advanced weapons and technology, which were a significant boost to the Zephyrans' defense efforts. The tide of the battle was turning. Earth had found an unlikely ally in the Zephyron people, and together they would fight to protect the planet from the ruthless invaders. The battle was far from over, but now, for the first time, humanity and the Zephyron people stood united. And with that unity came the chance for victory. As the battle for Zephyron intensified, the alliance between Earth and the Zephyron people grew stronger. The humans, with their advanced weaponry and tactical expertise, began to gain ground against the raiders, while the Zephyrans provided crucial intelligence and local knowledge of their planet's landscape. Together, they made a formidable team, and hope started to bloom where it had once seemed impossible. However, not everyone in the galaxy was pleased with Earth's actions. Far from it. The Galactic Council, an organization that governed the most powerful and influential races across the stars, had been watching Earth's efforts closely. When the Council had first learned of Earth's decision to intervene on behalf of Zephyron, they had been dismissive. The humans, they thought, were too primitive to make a difference. But now, with the raiders' fleet being pushed back, the Council's indifference turned to irritation. They saw humanity's success as an unwanted disruption to their control over the galaxy. It wasn't just that Earth had dared to act. It was that the humans had begun to win. And that was something the Council couldn't tolerate. In a private meeting aboard the Council's flagship, representatives from the most powerful galactic species gathered. Their faces were grim as they discussed the growing situation on Zephyron. "We cannot allow this to continue," said Varka, a tall and imposing member of the Kshathar, a species known for their cold, calculating nature. "If Earth wins this battle, it will change everything. They will challenge the balance of power in the galaxy." One of the human representatives, an envoy named Valeria Hart, spoke up. She had been sent to the Council to represent Earth's interests, though she was beginning to realize that the Council's priorities were not aligned with her own people's. "The situation on Zephyron is simple. They're being attacked by ruthless raiders, and Earth is helping to defend them. If the Council steps in now, it will be seen as nothing less than betrayal." Another Council member, a member of the Shari species, sneered. "Let the humans play their games. We don't need their interference. They have no place here. The Zephyrans are irrelevant. If they fall, it will be no great loss to the galaxy." Valeria's eyes narrowed as she heard the words. She had hoped that the Galactic Council would act in the interest of peace, but it was clear now that the Council cared only for their own power and influence. To them, Zephyron was just another insignificant world, and its people expendable. Earth's role in this conflict was nothing more than a nuisance to the Council's carefully controlled order. The decision was made. The Galactic Council, in their usual detached manner, issued a formal message to Earth. They ordered General Wright and his fleet to abandon Zephyron immediately. The message was clear. Earth was to stand down, and the humans were to leave the Zephyron system at once. The Council would not tolerate a small, unimportant planet challenging their power. The humans were to be removed from the equation. But General Wright refused to comply. He had seen the faces of the Zephyron people. He had heard their stories of pain and loss. To abandon them now would be a betrayal of everything he stood for. Wright knew that the future of Earth's place in the galaxy was at stake, but he would not back down. Not now. "They've abandoned us, just as they abandoned Zephyron," Wright said to his crew, his voice firm with resolve. "But we will not abandon them. We've come this far, and we will finish what we started." The Galactic Council may have tried to force Earth's hand, But General Wright and his crew knew one thing for certain. They would fight for what was right, even if it meant standing against the galaxy's most powerful forces. The battle above Zifferan had reached a critical point. The raiders, once confident in their superior technology, were now on the defensive. Earth's fleet, though outnumbered, had shown remarkable resilience and ingenuity. General Marcus Wright had done the impossible. His fleet was holding their ground, and with the help of the Zifferan people, the raiders were beginning to lose their grip on the planet. But despite their success, Earth's forces were running out of time. The Vanguard, Earth's flagship, had sustained significant damage, and many of their weapons were at the edge of their operational limits. The Zifferans, though courageous, lacked the resources to mount a full-scale counterattack on their own. It was clear Earth couldn't afford to rest. They had to find a way to push the raiders back for good. As the battle raged, Captain Elara Kane stood on the command deck, eyes focused on the screen before her. The raiders' remaining ships circled above Zifferan, waiting for an opening. Captain Kane had studied the raiders' tactics. They were brutal, yes, but also predictable. The key was to use their arrogance against them. And that's when it hit her. Humans had something the raiders didn't: adaptability. "General," Elara said, her voice steady but filled with urgency, "I have a plan. We can't fight them in a conventional way. They've got us beat on firepower, but we can outthink them." General Wright looked up from the tactical mat. He trusted Elara's instincts, but this was a risky move. "What do you have in mind?" "We need to trick them into thinking we're retreating," she explained. "If we can make them believe they've won, we can lure them into a trap. We've already taken out their flagship, but there are still enough ships left to destroy us. The key is to make them chase us." Dr. Lyle Quinn, who had been working with the Zifferan engineers, entered the room just as Elara finished speaking. "She's right. We can use their overconfidence against them. I've been working on modifying the Vanguard's particle cannons. If we can reroute power to the secondary weapons and create a fake retreat, we can catch them off guard when they get too close." Wright thought for a moment. The plan was dangerous, but it was their best shot. If it worked, they could end the battle before the raiders could regroup. "All right, Captain, set it up. Dr. Quinn, get those cannons ready. Let's turn their arrogance into their downfall." With the new plan in motion, the crew worked quickly. They'd reprogrammed the Vanguard systems to simulate damage, and the ship began its slow retreat from the battle. The raiders, sensing an easy victory, immediately gave chase, abandoning their formation and rushing after the retreating human ship. What the raiders didn't know was that the Vanguard had not been crippled. It was a ruse, a carefully calculated move to lure them in. As the raiders closed the distance, the Vanguard suddenly stopped, its weapons firing to full power. The raiders' ships were caught off guard, unable to react in time. The battle turned in an instant. The Vanguard's modified particle cannons tore into the raiders' ships, disabling one after another. The surprise attack left the remaining raiders in disarray, struggling to regroup as the humans, now energized by their success, pressed their advantage. The raiders had underestimated Earth, and now they were paying the price. "We've got them on the run," Elara said, her voice filled with a mix of triumph and disbelief. "We can win this." General Wright looked out at the battlefield, watching as the raiders' forces began to break apart. For the first time in what felt like forever, he allowed himself a small smile. Earth had not only survived the battle, it had turned the tide. They had shown the galaxy what humanity was capable of, and they had done it by using the one thing the raiders had failed to account for: their ability to think outside the box. The fight wasn't over yet, but Earth had proved its strength. Now, they had the raiders on the ropes. Victory was within reach. The battle above Zifferan was in its final stages. The raiders, who had once seemed so invincible, were now scrambling to stay afloat. Their ships, crippled by the surprise counterattack from Earth's fleet, were disorganized and panicking. The Vanguard, Earth's flagship, had taken down several of their vessels with pinpoint accuracy. But the leader of the raiders, Captain Talruk, was not easily defeated. Known across the galaxy for his ruthless tactics, he would not go down without a fight. General Marcus Wright stood at the command center of the vanguard, eyes focused on the tactical map. The enemy ships were scattered, their formation shattered, but Talruk's flagship, the Inferno, was still intact, and it was bearing down on the vanguard with all its firepower. Talruk had retreated once, but now, with his forces crumbling, he was determined to take Earth's fleet down with him. "He's coming straight for us," Captain Ilara Kane said, her voice steady but tense. "Talruk won't give up until he's either dead or we are. We've beaten his fleet, but this is the final test," Wright said, a grim determination in his eyes. "We need to finish this." As the Inferno grew closer, Talruk's voice crackled over the communications channel. His laughter was cold and mocking, the voice of a man who knew no mercy. "You humans are persistent," Talruk sneered, "but that won't save you. I've watched your kind fall before. You're weak, and you'll fall again." Wright clenched his fists. Talruk's arrogance was the very thing that had brought him to this point, overconfident and reckless. But it was also his downfall. Wright wasn't going to let this monster take down the people he had sworn to protect. "Captain Kane," Wright ordered, "prepare the vanguard for a direct engagement. We've got one shot at this. I need you to be ready." Kane nodded, quickly relaying the orders to the crew. The vanguard shifted its position, aligning itself for a head-on confrontation with the Inferno. The two ships were now on a collision course, and the tension was palpable. The crew knew that the outcome of this battle would decide the fate of Zephyrin, and perhaps even the future of humanity's place in the galaxy. Talruk's Inferno fired first, launching a barrage of energy blasts aimed directly at the vanguard. The ship's shields flared, holding up under the assault, but they wouldn't last forever. Wright knew they had to act fast. The raiders had no idea that Earth's fleet had one final card to play. "Dr. Quinn," Wright said, turning to the engineer, "are the secondary systems ready?" "We're good to go, General," Dr. Quinn replied. "The modified cannons are locked and loaded. We just need a clean shot." Ilara Kane's hands flew across the console, her face a mask of concentration. "We've got one chance. I'll bring us in close. Hold tight, everyone." The vanguard veered sharply, cutting through the raiders' fire, and getting into position for a final strike. Talruk's ship, with its overwhelming firepower, seemed unstoppable, but the vanguard's smaller, more agile design allowed it to slip through the gaps in the raiders' defenses. "Now," Kane shouted. With a precise command, the vanguard unleashed its final assault. The secondary cannons fired with deadly accuracy, striking the Inferno in a series of well-placed hits. The impact was explosive. The raiders' flagship shuddered and groaned under the force, its shields failing and vital systems beginning to overload. Talruk's ship, once so mighty, was now crumbling in the face of Earth's ingenuity. General Wright watched as the Inferno faltered, its energy reserves dwindling. The battle was almost over. Talruk, who had once believed himself invincible, was now retreating in a desperate attempt to save himself. But it was too late. As the final blast from the vanguard struck the Inferno, Talruk's flagship erupted in a violent explosion, tearing the ship apart. "Talruk is gone," Wright said quietly, his voice filled with quiet satisfaction. "Zephyrin is safe." Captain Kane let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. The crew exchanged relieved looks as the battle came to an end. The raiders had been defeated, and the people of Zephyrin were no longer under threat. Earth had not only protected the innocent, but had also proven to the galaxy that even a small planet like Earth could stand against the darkness. For General Wright and his crew, this victory was hard-earned. It had taken everything they had, but they had succeeded. Earth's place in the galaxy had been solidified, and the galaxy would remember that it was humanity who had defended the helpless when no one else would. The fall of Captain Talruk marked the end of an era for the raiders, and the beginning of a new chapter for Earth. The battle was over. The vanguard, though battered and scarred, stood victorious. The raiders' fleet had been broken, and Captain Taurok, the leader of the invaders, was no more. Xiferon, once on the verge of destruction, was safe. General Marcus Wright stood at the command center of the vanguard, watching the stars outside. The view was peaceful now, but it hadn't been long ago that this very space was filled with chaos and violence. Xiferon's sky was no longer marked by the shadow of war. As the raiders' ships fell silent in the void, the Xiferon survivors, hidden in their underground bunkers, cautiously emerged. They watched as the human fleet, once strangers to their world, had come to their rescue and fought for their survival. The Xiferon leader, Lyra, was one of the first to meet with General Wright and his crew. She was a tall woman with glowing silver eyes, a calm demeanor, and a quiet strength. Despite the battle's success, there was still something unsettled in her expression. "Thank you, General Wright," Lyra said, her voice filled with gratitude. "You've saved my people, but at great cost." Wright nodded, acknowledging the truth in her words. Many lives had been lost during the battle, both human and Xiferon. The toll of war could never be measured in victory alone. But as he looked at the Xiferon people, who were now beginning to rebuild their shattered cities, he knew that they had made the right choice. The cost was high, but it was worth it. Wright replied, his voice steady. "Xiferon is free, and that's what matters." Lyra studied him for a moment, her gaze thoughtful. "Your people, Earth, they are different from the others we've encountered. You don't have the power of the Council or the resources of the other galactic races, yet you stood beside us when no one else would. You fought for us, for what was right." General Wright's expression softened. He had never sought recognition, but hearing Lyra's words made the weight of his choices feel a little lighter. "We fight for what we believe in. That's the only thing that matters." As the crew of the Vanguard celebrated their victory in quiet moments among themselves, word spread across the galaxy of what Earth had done. The Galactic Council, which had abandoned Xiferon in its time of need, now found itself forced to acknowledge Earth's bravery. They sent messages of thanks, but those who had stood by Xiferon knew better than to expect their gratitude. "We didn't do this for the Council," Captain Ilara Kane said, her tone firm. "We did it for Xiferon. We did it because it was the right thing to do." The crew knew that this victory would have long-lasting consequences. Earth's name had now spread across the stars, not as a small, insignificant planet, but as a force to be reckoned with. They had proved that even in the face of overwhelming odds, humanity had the will and the determination to stand tall. The galaxy had looked away, but Earth had answered the call. As General Wright and his crew prepared to leave Xiferon, they were aware that their journey was just beginning. Earth had proven itself capable, but now the galaxy was watching. They had made allies, but they had also made enemies. The future of humanity in the galaxy was uncertain, but one thing was clear: Earth would never again be a silent observer. They had shown the galaxy that Earth would defend the weak, stand against the powerful, and fight for what was just. "We've made our mark," Wright said to his crew as they boarded the Vanguard for their next mission. "Now let's see where the galaxy takes us." With that, the Vanguard left Xiferon's orbit, heading into the unknown. The galaxy, once indifferent to Earth, had been changed forever, and humanity, for the first time, was ready to take its place among the stars. The mission to save Xiferon had been a success, but for General Marcus Wright and his crew, the real journey was just beginning. Earth had proven that it was no longer just a small, insignificant planet in the galaxy. It had stood up to the raiders, the powerful forces that had once been untouchable, and emerged victorious. The victory over Captain Taurok and his forces was just the beginning of what Earth was capable of. But now, Earth had to face the consequences of its actions, both the opportunities and the dangers that lay ahead. The Vanguard had left Xiferon behind, but the crew was far from relaxed. As they traveled through the stars, they received transmissions from the Xiferon people, expressing their gratitude and sending messages of hope. The Xiferons, though once a people who had kept to themselves, now saw Earth as a true ally. They were eager to build a future with the humans, and in many ways, that future seemed possible. The two races had shared not just technology and resources, but a bond forged in the heat of battle. Despite the victories, however, General Wright knew the galaxy would not simply accept Earth's rise to prominence. The Galactic Council, though now forced to acknowledge Earth's actions, would not easily forget the embarrassment of being outshone by a planet they had dismissed as inconsequential. And Earth's intervention on Zephyron's behalf had already raised eyebrows among some of the galaxy's most powerful factions. "We've made quite a stir," Captain Ilara Kane said, walking up to Wright as they stood in the Vanguard's observation deck, looking out at the vastness of space. "And not everyone will be happy about it." Wright sighed, staring into the endless stars ahead. "I know. The Council will try to keep us in check, but we've proven something. Earth is no longer a bystander in this galaxy. We have our place here, and we're not backing down." Ilara nodded. "But now we'll need allies. We can't fight all the battles alone." As they continued their journey through space, the crew of the Vanguard knew that they had to tread carefully. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, and while they had made some allies, there were still many who would view Earth as a threat. But there were also those who saw in humanity a strength that could be an asset. General Wright's decision to help Zephyron had shown that humans were willing to fight for justice, even against overwhelming odds. Earth's role in the galaxy was now changing. As the crew worked together to strengthen the human presence in the stars, they began making contacts with other races who had once viewed Earth with disdain. Some came to them seeking friendship, others simply curious about the new player on the galactic stage. But one thing was clear: Earth was no longer the weak, forgotten world it had once been. It had earned its place among the stars. Back on Earth, the people were beginning to learn about the incredible victory their military had won. News outlets buzzed with stories of the brave men and women who had defended an entire world from destruction. The public was proud, excited, and in many ways, inspired. For the first time in a long while, Earth was no longer just another planet on the map. It was a beacon of hope, a symbol of humanity's potential. And for General Wright and his crew, there was still much work to be done. They were not heroes, at least not in the way the galaxy might see them. They were soldiers, explorers, and pioneers, carving out a future for humanity in a galaxy that had long ignored them. The road ahead would be full of challenges, but Earth had already shown that it was willing to face them head-on. "We've taken our first steps," Wright said quietly to Ilara, "and now we build something new." As the Vanguard sailed deeper into the unknown, Earth's future in the galaxy seemed full of possibilities. What started as a mission to protect a single world had evolved into something much greater. The universe had looked away, but Earth had seen. And now, with courage and determination, humanity was ready to take its place in the stars. The stars outside the Vanguard's windows had become a familiar sight to General Marcus Wright and his crew. What had started as a desperate mission to save a single planet had grown into something much bigger. Earth had proven to the galaxy that they were no longer a forgotten world. They had shown that, even against overwhelming odds, humanity could stand tall, fight for what was right, and make a difference in the galaxy. As the crew worked to strengthen Earth's position in space, they began to meet new civilizations, many of whom had once dismissed humanity as insignificant. Some were curious about Earth's sudden rise, others sought alliances. But one thing was certain: Earth was no longer invisible. The galaxy had seen what humans were capable of, and the consequences of that were still unfolding. General Wright knew that while the victory over the Raiders had been a significant step, the challenges ahead would not be easy. The Galactic Council, though humbled, would likely attempt to rein in Earth's newfound influence. There were powerful factions that would not welcome Earth's presence among the stars. But Wright had confidence in his people. He had seen the strength, courage, and ingenuity of the humans who had fought for Zephyron. He believed that humanity had the potential to lead, not just follow. Captain Elara Kane, standing beside Wright, gazed out at the stars. "We've proven ourselves. But now, the real work begins." Wright nodded. "We'll have to fight for every inch. The galaxy won't just accept us because we've earned it. But that's the price of making a difference." The crew of the Vanguard had already begun working with their new allies, the Xiferans, on rebuilding their world. The bond between the two races had grown stronger, built on mutual respect and shared struggle. The Xiferans had helped Earth navigate the complex terrain of their planet, and in return, Earth had provided technology and weapons to help defend their home. Together, they began to create a new future. Back on Earth, the news of the victory had sparked a wave of pride. People from all walks of life were inspired by the bravery of their military and the unexpected role humanity had played in galactic events. Earth was no longer just a small, isolated planet. It had become a symbol of hope and resilience, proof that even the weakest among the stars could stand up for what was right. But with this new role came new challenges. Earth's political leaders had to navigate the complexities of intergalactic diplomacy. The question of Earth's place in the galaxy was now a major topic of discussion. Would they continue to fight for justice, or would they be drawn into the power struggles of the more established races? No one could predict the future, but one thing was certain. Earth was no longer a passive observer. The galaxy had witnessed the strength of humanity, and there would be no going back. As the Vanguard continued its journey through the stars, General Wright stood before his crew, his face set with determination. "We've shown the galaxy who we are. Now it's time to build something better. We fight not just for Earth, but for all those who need a voice in this vast, unknown universe." The stars outside seemed to shine brighter now. Earth had earned its place among them, and with each passing day, the future seemed filled with endless possibilities. The journey ahead would be difficult, but General Wright was confident in one thing. Humanity had what it took to overcome whatever lay ahead. As the Vanguard sailed into the depths of space, Earth's legacy was being written. A legacy of hope, courage, and the unwavering belief that even the smallest voice could make a difference in the galaxy. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Humanity was ready to face it.